Let's go live to a press briefing now by the Minister in the Presidency.
It's constituted by members of the Cabinet who are ministers and other members of the National Executive who are deputy ministers. We've got the representation of SALGA, we've got the provincial premiers of all our provinces, and we are meeting here so that we can then finalize a program of action. We agree on the set of actions that will then form the minimum of the program of action of government. That will allow us to then go back and consolidate what you will know as the medium-term strategic framework. Now we're calling it the medium-term development plan, so that you can then have the delineation. And the set of actions are being guided by the priorities that were agreed by the parties to the GNU, which are the 9 priorities. And in those 9 priorities, there's going to be a number of presentations that will say how do we agree on this. And we are guided as another filter by the National Development Plan. You'll recall when we briefed previously, we indicated that the National Development Plan is the lodestar of the development plan of the country, and guided by Vision 2030. So earlier we had a present, of course the President opened the Lekgotla. We had a presentation from one of the experts in the country around development. And if you recall, priority number 1, and I think up to priority number 3 or 4, they focus on economic growth and not only economic growth, inclusive growth and job creation. And we're looking at what should we do to unlock the economy to grow so that it can create jobs for the people of South Africa. And also to do that, we need a partnership with business. We need also a capable, ethical and a developmental state to have that capacity. And if I have to go back to the economic growth, inclusive growth and job creation, we are focusing on what are the areas of reforms that will unlock the economy, the issues around water. It's an issue. I hope we'll get an opportunity to talk to the Minister of Water sometime later. Electricity and energy in general, you know, the impact it has had in our economy, and we've seen the numbers. And what are we doing to deal with those reforms? We're dealing with issues around job creation, but how does economic growth trajectory look like? What are the plans? We should be able to get you the Minister of Trade and Industry and Competition, maybe to talk to you depending on the scheduling. And as we meet, we are cognizant of the fact we are meeting in a time where we have disasters, people who have been cut out of their homes and they do not have shelter. You've been interacting with Minister Kubai, and we think we can bring her over to talk to you about what is the progress that we have made and the interventions that we're doing, given the work that has been done. You will recall the other disasters in KZN and also in the Eastern Cape, the progress thereof, and how we're progressing in assuring and ensuring human settlements. We'll see. And I need to also clarify that from this Lekgotla, we're not going to invite the media to a briefing on the outcome. So the Lekgotla will be communicated by the President at the opening of Parliament on the 18th of July. And that's what we'll then go back and meet as clusters, finalize the priorities of clusters, and finalize then the strategic plans of departments and annual performance plans of departments and the budget thereof, which will then be tabled by the Minister of Finance. And to ensure alignment, the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, as I've indicated, when we've agreed on this set of priorities and the MTDP is developed and we go to Cabinet, because the Lekgotla cannot adopt a program. It has to be adopted by Cabinet. Cabinet is the governing authority of South Africa. So Cabinet will adopt, and when that has been adopted, clusters go and work on their cluster priorities and initiatives, and then from there departments go work. The Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, on that period they'll continue to work and to make sure that there's alignment across, and nobody does what they want to do. It's about you remember the argument, we are going to implement ANC priorities, we are going to implement DA priorities. There's no such. We are going to implement government priorities collectively, because there's no DA minister, there's no ANC minister, there is a minister of government, and that's what's important. And as you deal with the issues today, that's what we're consolidating, so that we have a single view and a single program of action that is agreed by by all, and thus cascades also to provinces. And as the premiers open their provincial legislatures and articulate their own provincial programs, they will also go into their own mahutlas and then agree to say, stemming from national, this is what it means for Limpopo, for KZN, for Western Cape, for Northern Cape, for Gauteng, for Free State, for Mpumalanga, for Northwest, for the Eastern Cape, because government is one and we must coalesce together. In terms of the agenda, we're also going to look, remember we spoke about evidence, part of the priorities is evidence-based planning and action, and the Statistician General is going to present in terms of the indicators that we're looking at and what does that mean in terms of the government program and to influence that government program. And as we've tabled in the budget of the Statistics SA, to say we're starting to work on the indicators of how do we to support the implementation of the district development model to be evidence-based and data. Strengthen our research capability to make sure that we move with speed to achieve the goals of the NDP as articulated. I'll take one or two questions and then we'll leave and we'll see if we can get the colleagues. I don't want to be closed out. There's Ter and there's and Samkelo, I wanted to call him, but another name. And that's it. We're going to be good. They'll be represented. Who's starting, Samkelo?
Minister Samkelo from the SABC, just the cabinet's view or government's view on the affidavit that has been filed by Matodzi. You were very vociferous yourself in speaking out against the shenanigans that happened at the VBS Mutual Bank. Your view, the government's view on that particular affidavit that has been filed by Chidivzo Matodzi.
Placed a lot of emphasis on the economy and what needs to happen going forward. There seems to be an arrest in terms of the energy supply situation that's seemingly steady. And I think the next fresh point then is going to be SOEs. So can you just give us an understanding where things stand? Is the holding company going ahead? What is the status of that? Are we going to see memorandums of incorporation or understanding for entities to go back to their land departments? What is the next step where those are concerned? Thank you.
Thank you. Of course, the Lekgotla did not speak about the VBS case, but you know the stand of government. That's why government, even when during that saga, they instituted support mechanisms for the victims of the VBS, and the law enforcement agencies continue to work to bring to book everybody. Remember, Mr. Shipiwa Matodzi is not the first one to do a confession. There was, I just forgot his name, Philip Trotter, who did the confession. This confession, and this affidavit, we hope that it will allow law enforcement agencies to move with speed to bring to book everybody who has swindled the money of our people, because we have now, you know, the scale of the looting and the impact and the laundering and the disregard of laws, but you have not yet quantified the impact of the VBS saga to the ordinary people of Bembe, in particular the women of the Stokvels and the burial societies, the communities that had burial societies, the aged who had lost their pension funds, and though government tried to repay, but it was not enough. The impact has just been dire. So that is the other story that still has to be told. But to make up for that, we need everybody mentioned to be prosecuted and to serve their time. Justice for the people, the victims of VBS must be heard. And on the issues that you have raised around the focus of the economy, let me start with a simple one. If you recall, when we closed the 6th administration and we had sent a bill on the SOC holding company to Parliament, and Parliament could not process that, it will then need to be resuscitated in the parliamentary process, and that resuscitation will then clarify how we move forward. And you'll remember when the president was making an announcement, he announced that in terms of policies, the SOCs will go to the policy departments, but in terms of coordination, they'll go to the presidency. And I've indicated that detail will be fleshed out as to come through. And that's important because the SOCs play a critical role in the development of this country. If you check the role of Transnet on the rail and the ports, and you check all other, the Eskom and the impact on energy and so forth. But our focus on economic growth is not limited on only growing the economy. We are also focusing on how do we deal with the high cost of living that is affecting South Africans, and as part of, and how do we reduce poverty meaningfully so that South Africans can be able to have a prosperous future, but not only the future but also the present life, that they can be able to afford their lives, and the impact of the social wage. How do you strengthen the social wage to improve the livelihoods of South Africans, and that you do with also your education, your health, universal access to health. And don't ask me, you'll say there is no agreement on the NHI. The NHI is law in this country, and there is agreement that there is across everybody that there must be universal access to health in the country. It's the machinations of how do we get there. We are all agreed that there must be an improvement in the health infrastructure. We are all agreed that there must be access to an improvement in the services. Though South Africa is one of the best health services internationally, if you do comparatively, but we still need to do more. We need more health professionals so that even the rural areas can have access to those. So the work on universal access to health is ongoing. Is part of the discussions we're going to have. Thank you very much. We'll see if there are other ministers who are who can come and fill the gaps in terms of the issues that are pertinent to you. Thank you.
That is the minister there in the Presidency Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, essentially wrapping up and giving a statement of what is currently transpiring in the Cabinet Lekgotla. We did earlier on get a bite from the President of the country saying that it is ultimately the first Cabinet Lekgotla. Everything is going well. They are in serious deliberations, and the mood is very cordial inside the meeting. And you did hear the minister saying that the report back will come in the State of the Nation address by President Cyril Ramaphosa.
All right, let's go back to where we'll get further briefings at that first Cabinet Lekgotla.
Good morning. I've been asked to just give an update on what we are doing in terms of the disasters across the country, because we've got felt fires in KwaZulu-Natal, and then we've had the floods in Cape Town or Western Cape, where we've been able to interact. We've been able to move, I think the update as we were on the ground in Western Cape, we've been able to relocate families into a building that as government we have leased for 30 days while we are finding a solution in terms of the informal settlement, because they have submerged. Whether the rain will come down and we move them back, or we have to find an alternative land where we relocate them, like we did with other areas. The challenge in the city of Cape Town is particularly land availability and the requirements that we've got to follow in terms of the processes of approvals for land to use. So currently, those that were affected in terms of their buildings, formal structures, the assessment have been done by NHPRC. We've received the first report. There were quite a number of houses that later added. We're hoping that by Monday we would have the intervention as fixing those houses by our service providers that we have been able to appoint. With the materials for the informal settlements have been delivered, are starting to be delivered today. I've been informed that the service providers are actually on their way, starting to be on site to be able to do that. In KwaZulu-Natal, MEC Lomo, I was not able to go there. He was able, MEC Duma was able to move into the communities. It's King Cetshwayo that is highly affected as we speak. The fires are raging, have not stopped, and that's what is still concerning for us because the numbers goes up. What we have agreed is that we'll start intervening, not wait until the whole area has been completed. We'll start intervening. The request there for starters is about 130 temporary units that needs to be put in place for families that are homeless as we speak. So we are concerned obviously across, and one of the things that we'll bring into Lekgotla is how government responds to disasters. more not to be reactive but be proactive, including ourselves where we need resources to start relocating. What I speak about is category C, informal settlements. These are informal settlements that are sitting in danger zone. So we'll provide Minister of Finance together with the team. We've agreed with the department that we need a bilateral so that we can find mechanisms or even bring other department or entities such as DBSA to help us, because we do believe that currently in the manner that the water or the floods are happening and the fires, it is unprecedented and therefore needs us to respond differently. So that's the update I have from my side.